What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another edition of Talking Ball. Today, we're looking at Asa Newell, the 19-year-old freshman from Georgia. He's part of that Montverde team with Cooper Flagg, Nia McNeely, Derek Queen, and Rob Wright. And we just got the combine data out, so all these videos moving forward will have their official measurements. So he's 6'9", 6'11" wingspan, and 224 pounds. All right, so what does Newell do well? Well, you may not really recognize it with necessarily his skill offensively, but the 16th best offensive rating in college basketball, which says that the advanced numbers really love what he's able to do for his team. And I think it comes from two places. The first being he's a really good offensive rebounder, averaged over 3 offensive rebounds per game for Georgia. He did so while playing both at the 4 and the 5, depending on the lineup for Georgia. And he's just really active. I think that's the number one word that I would use for Asa Newell. And that comes into play with the second thing that I think he's really good at offensively, which is his ability, his feel for the game, his ability to find space within the defense. It's a skill. I don't think people give it as much credit as they should, similar to just playing with effort all the time. Newell does an exceptional job at finding the spaces within the defense to get open dunks, sometimes open threes, cut to the rim, find his way to a layup, etc. Newell does a really good job at just figuring out where are the soft spots of the defense. Additionally, offensively, he's a capable free throw shooter at 75%. He's got good touch in the paint area, shot really well in his twos. We'll get to that later. He can also pass within the offense, and he's got this short hook push shot kind of thing, which showcases his touch around the rim, inside the free throw line there. Not at the rim, but in the paint area is what I would say. And he's comfortable dribbling in space. His three-point form looks good. He didn't shoot necessarily a high percentage, but it looks good. And that gives me confidence, along with the adequate free throw percentage, that could be a skill that becomes really part of his game at the next level. Now, defensively, he's a guy he's a really good athlete. He's a fluid mover. He moves well laterally. He can beat the opposing player to the spot. I really love his ability to switch or to hedge and recover. He can do a little bit of both. He gives you that versatility. At 6'9", he is able to guard some smaller players with his quickness and athleticism. And he's just a guy who defensively, I think, he's just a really good defensive player. Solid to good defensive player. He averages a steal and a block per game, so he's a guy who can make be a little bit of a defensive playmaker for you. So that's kind of the offense and the defense for Newell. Now, moving into areas he needs to improve upon. And this isn't actually something he needs to improve upon, but rather it's more of a question. The thing he needs to improve upon, which will answer this question, would be his shooting. And the reason why is because he is a tweener. And it's funny to me because, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago now, that tweener would be about the 3-4. You're not a small forward, but you're not a power forward, right? And then over time, that actually became a good thing. You were a tweener. Oh, you're the perfect fit for the power forward position. Nowadays, it's more of that 4-5 tweener. This is what I've kind of come to define. Newell really, unfortunately, slides right into that area because I think he's a good basketball player. But positionally, he's going to struggle guarding true fives. Now, it doesn't mean in certain matchups, and it could be in half the games, he can play the 5 position for you at the NBA level. It's just that in the other half, and depending on the matchup you get in the playoffs, for example, it's not going to be adequate for Newell to be at the 5. And specifically thinking of examples. Now, there aren't necessarily a ton right now in the playoffs, but I think that's a positive for Newell, that there aren't necessarily a ton. But you look at bigger centers like a Jokic, for example, who's in the playoffs. Newell's going to have a tough time guarding him with the physicality because he's 6'9", 6'11". You can get away with that, but he's 224 pounds, and his frame, he's got a thin frame, so I just don't see him developing to be 250. Maybe he could get up to 235 or so, and still maintain what he does well. But I just don't think he's going to be able to bang with some of the centers, even guys who are more offensive rebounding type players like a Rudy Gobert or a Mitchell Robinson. I think could give Newell some difficulties on the defensive glass where he's not as strong as where he is offensively. So I just think that is something to be mindful of with Newell. Not saying it necessarily as a reason to rule him out, but just something to think about in the bigger picture. Statistically, and this is where I'll show you guys what I mean in terms of the three-point shooting, because if Newell can shoot the three consistently, then he can play at the 4, and honestly, he can still play at the 5 because while he may give up some on one end, he'll get it back on the other. So in the season, he averaged 15 points, 7 rebounds. His rebounding was split pretty evenly offensively and defensively, just under an assist, 1 steal, 1 block per game, and just over a turnover, so a slightly negative assist-to-turnover ratio, but he just wasn't asked to play make for Georgia, and it's not something I'm super concerned about. Shooting-wise, 54% from the field, 29% from 3, which went up slightly in conference play to 30%, and 75% from the free throw line on 4 attempts. He got to the line a fairly decent amount. Now, the thing that's most exciting about his statistics here is the 63% on his twos. That wasn't all dunks. He has nice touch in that paint area. And so, for me, the question just goes back to what I was talking about before with Newell, the tweener aspect, because you look at guys similar to his size and build who play at the center spot regularly. You're looking at a Sengun or a Sabonis who aren't the same athletically but had similar measurements, 6'9", 6'11". They're more fulcrums in terms of their playmaking and passing ability, so it doesn't quite fit in there. Then smaller centers who are athletic and can kind of move similarly to Newell, but maybe aren't quite as tall, have longer wingspans. Thinking of guys like Robert Williams, even Draymond to an extent, he's a tweener, but plays at the 5 spot. He's got over a 7-foot wingspan, even though he's 6'6". And so the wingspan aspect, I think, hurts Newell a little bit here. And I just think that swing skill of his three-point shooting is going to define his NBA career. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Until next time, peace.